Welcome to Between the Lines podcast. I'm Jess.
And I'm Janine.
And we both work at the Winkler branch of the South Central Regional Library.
In this podcast, we talk about books with our own twist. We talk about just the first half and predict where it might be going.
And finish reading the book and discuss the second half.
There will be snark, there will be spoilers, and depending on the book, there may be references to violence, sex, or other adult topics.
So if that's not for you, stop listening now.
All right, let's get into this week's book. Alrighty. So today we're going to go with a fairly new release, Happy Place by Emily Henry. Harriet and Wynne have been the perfect couple since they met in college. They go together like salt and pepper, honey and tea, lobster and rolls. Except, now, for reasons they're still not discussing, they don't. They broke up 5 months ago and still haven't told their best friends, which is how they find themselves sharing a bedroom at the main cottage that has been their friend group's yearly getaway for the last decade. Their annual respite from the world, where for one vibrant, blissful week they leave behind their daily lives, have copious amounts of cheese, wine, and seafood, and soak up the salty coastal air with the people who understand them most. Only this year, Harriet and Wynne are lying through their teeth while trying not to notice how desperately they still want each other. Because the cottage is for sale and this is the last week they'll all have together in this place. They can't stand to break their friends' hearts, and so they'll play their parts. Harriet will be the driven surgical resident who never starts a fight, and Wynne will be the laid-back charmer who never lets the cracks show. It's a flawless plan, if you look at it from a great distance and through a pair of sunscreen-smeared sunglasses. After years of being in love, how hard can it be to fake it for 1 week, in front of those who know you best? So this is a standalone book, was released April 25th, 2023, so about a month ago. And so author Emily Henry considers this book to be like a rom-com. And she says, I talk about them as rom-coms because I want romance readers to find them and also non-romance readers to be open to them. It's also to communicate that there's a love story, but there's always humor as well. So, and also just a little bit about Emily Henry. She's 32 years old and has written 3 other novels, Beach Read, People We Meet on Vacation, and Book Lovers, which have consecutively sold more than 2.4 million copies and spent a cumulative 145 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. And I believe, if I'm correct, her first book, Beach Read, only came out in 2020, so not that long ago. So she's got 4 books in like 3 years. And apparently her 3 previous books are all being adapted into feature films. Now, after I put that fact in, I could only find like concrete information on 2 of them out of the 3, but I think this was from like a pretty current article or an interview with her, so I'm assuming that that's correct.
Well, if it's only from 2020, oldest book is only 2020. I'm assuming the time that it takes to get everything into pre-production and set everything up.
Well,
it takes a while.
Just to write the adaptation and all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing, though, if you consider.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I think it came out in 2020 because I somewhere read something about coming out during the pandemic. So, yeah. So anyways, that's some info on this week's book. I will start off by saying, as I was reading this, I said to my husband, Jess is going to hate this book. It's just not really something that you would normally read, I feel like.
Not really.
So, and for me, I don't consider myself a lover of romances.
I don't like straight romance.
But back in like the early, mid-2000s, there was a genre called chick lit that I loved to read because they were just like fun, didn't require a lot of like thought or like effort to read, right? They were easy
Something
reads.
fluffy.
Yeah, and I really liked that. And this I think is sort of like an extension of that coming back, but these ones are a little bit more like this one, like Colleen Hoover, there's Jasmine
This is not
Gilroy.
Colleen Hoover.
No, but like romance.
Yeah.
Like, so there's like this whole new genre of romance novels that have been becoming more popular over the last few years, which seems like something that like it's similar to what I used to really like.
I would say not romance novels per se, but relationship novels.
These are more intense and usually have more smut than the ones that I'm used to reading.
You wouldn't give them to your grandmother, would you?
But like, so one author I really liked was Sophie Kinsella. The Shopaholic series, I loved it. But this is a little bit more...
See, this reminds me of the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Not the whole thing, but like one of their last books. Where they're like, oh, we've lost the pants and now we all have to get together and blah, blah, blah. And nothing's ever going to be the same again. And you hear the sarcasm coming through.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you've said to me before we started, if they told you that all the characters in this book were 22, you would believe that.
Yes.
Even though we know that they're definitely not. They're probably, in their 30s, you would say? Late 20s for sure.
At one point, they talked about meeting in when they were about 22, and it's been 10 years since they... something. So,
No.
they're about 30, 32, I think.
The girls met in college.
Yeah.
Their
But
first
this
year.
was specifically Harry and Wynne.
Okay. Yeah.
Early 30s.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. Say.
So, because you thought that they were acting...
Oh, they're acting so bloody juvenile.
Okay, so what I was going to say to you earlier, which we saved, is that if you think about this as a thing that they do every year and a place that they come every year, and they've been doing this since they were in their early 20s, so for like 10 years or whatever it is, I think you can't help but revert back to some of that immaturity.
Yeah, it's escape from their normal lives.
Right? And so, like, this is just a place that you go, you always do the same things, you always, like, I think some of that will come out regardless. Mm-hmm. Like, when I talk to my friends from college, sometimes it just gets a little silly and goofy and whatever, even though we're all in our 40s now. Because you can't help it.
The first, like, couple chapters... I did actually have a note on this at some point. Now, by chapter 3, the positivity bouncing and shrieking is starting to get annoying. Like, they're just like, oh my god, like, oh great, so hugs. I'm like, I cannot tolerate you.
I feel like...
I am a very crabby person.
I feel like there's going to be some dark turns in the second half.
Murder?
No.
Oh.
There won't be murder. I'm fairly certain there will not be a murder in this book. I'm sorry.
My problem is, I don't like straight romance. Mm-hmm. I find it boring. The will they, won't they, when you know that they will. Mm-hmm. I'm like, just skip to the end. And go, they all lived happily ever after until they had to pay taxes, realized they hated each other, and divorced again. Okay, I'm sorry.
Such a bleak outlook on life.
Yes, welcome to me. These people, Harry and Wynne,
Yeah.
if they do get back together, it's in the escapism of a vacation. Mm-hmm. Will that actually survive the reality of life? The fact that she still is in San Francisco for her residency, he's still in Montana for his mother and his woodworking shop or whatever. Mm-hmm. The distance is still there.
Yeah.
The disagreements, the history is still there. Just because you can forget it for the course of a vacation doesn't necessarily mean that it is going to actually last.
Right. Or it could bring to light the fact that, oh, wait a minute, I do still care very deeply for this person. I do want to be with them. I missed not being with them. And
who uproots their life?
Well, I don't know.
Does he leave a sick mother and work woodworking business? Does she give up her surgical residency or transfer it to a hospital in Montana?
I don't have the answers to that question yet.
No, Janine, you're supposed to be omnipotent.
But I also feel like there's a lot of things that they're not saying to each other.
Well, they keep going and talking about him.
Yeah.
And he.
There's obviously somebody at the hospital that he thought she was having a relationship with or something. Yeah. Whether she was or wasn't, I don't know. But also, I think, like, from his side, there's a lot of things that he's not saying to her. Mm-hmm. It seems to me like they need to communicate better.
Yeah.
And that's something that frustrates me in books like this, is that just
when
talk.
The entire book could have been one chapter if they just sat down and had a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also the reason why I don't like straight romance. You know, you can't find the murderer by just sitting down and having a chat.
No.
You can remove an entire romance book by doing that.
But, like, just freaking talk to each other. Mm-hmm. Honestly.
Well, that and the friends, Chloe and Samantha?
Yeah.
Like, just sit down, shut up, and talk.
I know, but they don't want to... They want it to be a special week.
Frankly, it's just slightly ironic. But Samantha, I would have tossed in the ocean years ago. the itinerary? You scheduled out bathroom breaks on a vacation, woman.
That sounds like
Chill out.
Danny Tanner and his clipboard of fun.
Yeah. Like,
yes.
she's so determined to make it absolutely perfect that there's various problems they're just stuffing down. And
there is a lot of stuffing down of problems in this book. And that is frustrating to me.
It's all gonna blow up, I think, in the second half. But, like, she's so determined for this last vacation to be so perfect. I don't know if she can handle it if anything goes wrong.
But also, we don't have vacation homes in Maine that we've gone to every year.
Brats.
And that we consider, like, she considers that to be her home, right?
Yeah.
I think she said at one point. And so, like, imagine if you had lived in a place, it's been a part of your life, your entire life, and it was like a happy place, for lack of a better term. See, and then suddenly you had to give that all up.
No comment.
I know, the cynic in you is like, no.
No, like, I've done it. You get over it. You pull up your boots and you move on.
Okay, but you still want to say goodbye.
I don't begrudge them having one last hurrah, but if you have scheduled things to that degree, like, oh no, we can't stop going for whatever tour because it's raining. Can we go to the bookshop? Oh, I guess we can. Fine. Like,
yeah, okay.
Part of fun is spontaneity. Scheduled spontaneity is not fun.
I don't know that it's like, I think that she's just scheduled out the things that they always do.
And the bathroom breaks?
The bathroom breaks, I don't know. I cannot speak to that. But, like, it seems to me like they go there, they do the same things every year, kind of in the same order. And I think, if I remember right, the itinerary was sort of like a sentimental, like, this is a reminder of all the things that we did and how we did things. And
for being a souvenir itinerary, she sticks to it pretty good.
Yeah. But also could have left out the bathroom breaks.
Yes. No, like, it's not that I hate this book. It's fine. But I like a good dose of reality, a sprinkling of realism in there.
Well, maybe that will come.
I certainly hope so, because right now they're like, oh, it's sunshine and butterflies and weed gummies.
Weed gummies really bother you.
They're 30-year-old people, like, acting like,
30-year-olds
honestly,
can't have
you
fun?
could tell me these people were 22 and I'd be like, okay, yep.
So 30-year-olds aren't allowed to
They're
have fun?
acting a bit 18-year-oldish. It's not that you can't have fun, it's just the bouncing up and down and shrieking. They're like, ew! Oh, it grates on the nerves. I am too crabby for this kind of book. Nobody dies. Nobody has to pay their taxes.
Why does somebody have to die? Why can't...
Because that's life, Janine. Everyone dies. You can remove this, Linda. It's getting too much. Like,
so, but, like...
It's fine. It's just, I don't like romance for the sake of romance.
Okay. Do you like watching rom-coms? Like
only
movies?
if they're more calm than rom.
Okay. So, like, for me, I've read one of Emily Henry's books before, and I liked it. But for me, like, often I read books, I don't know if as an escape, but it's just supposed to be, like, recreation, right?
That's the thing.
And so
I think with this kind of book, you have to read it at the right time.
Yeah.
And I'm 110% not reading it at the right time.
Yeah. Also, you have to take it as, like, this is just a fun, fluffy book that I'm not going to get anything out of, really.
See, that's the thing. Because we're doing it for the podcast, I'm analyzing it way more than I ever would.
Yeah.
Which, not helping anything, because I'm going, that's a flaw, and that's a flaw, and that's a flaw. And that's, fine, but still. Like, I think with this kind of book, and I have read this kind of book before, and I have enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. But it's like, okay, I've read 15 serial killer books in a row, dark fantasy, there's elves chopping off heads and things, and now it's time to kind of switch things up a bit.
Cleanse the palate.
Cleanse the palate. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. And you read a book like this, and it's, happiness and light. It's like, okay, back to the elves again. Mm-hmm. I'm not reading it at the right time. I will 110% admit that, because I went from Israel Keys to Happy Place, and I really preferred Israel Keys.
Well, those are two, like, wildly different books also.
That's the thing. There is just such a switch.
Yeah.
And, like, don't get me wrong, if I had read this the same time we were reading Spare, best book of the year. Like, it would have been completely different. I think we just picked the wrong books to read together because
Yeah.
it's... Ooh.
See, for me, this is what I would call a good beach read. Like, it's something you don't have to put a lot of thought into. Something that you can just... Whatever. Like, I didn't even write any notes when I was reading. Usually I write notes so that I remember. But I didn't because I was like, I don't need to write notes about this. I'm going to be able to talk about it.
Nothing to remember. Like, okay.
I don't know, but...
I don't like books I don't have to think about.
Okay.
I like world building.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons why I like, Brandon Sanderson, that kind of thing. Because you're reading it and you're immersed in this entire different world, entire different cultures, entire different economic systems. And that's escapism. Not me going, do you guys pay taxes, like, at all?
I don't know why you're so focused on the taxes.
I don't know. I got a tax thing in the mail the other day. That's probably it.
But, see, I don't mind once in a while a book that I don't have to think too much about. And I like some world building, probably not as intensely as you do.
Yeah, see, I'm like, ooh, what kind of currency are you using?
But I just, like, not to say that I am loving this book.
It's perfectly adequate.
It's a decent book. I don't like when authors use the F word for sex. Because to me it just sounds really crude. And this author does that a fair bit. Which I don't like.
Not as bad as Colleen Hoover.
Not as bad as that. That is true.
Like.
So, like, be warned, there is language in this book. There will be smut coming. I know that. So that's...
Sorry, just imagine, like, blaring warning signs on, like, factory floors.
If that's not your thing, this book is not for you. For sure. It's an okay book. I probably will read her others. I think the one I read was Beach Read. I have another one of her books too, so I'll probably read them all because I like a good, like, escapism, whatever. But also then I'm like, oh, I want a house in Maine. I want to go on a vacation. And if they don't end up together, I'm going to be really mad because I'm invested in this relationship now.
I'm not.
And, well, that's fine. But for me, it's like, if I don't get that happy ending, I don't like books like this that don't have a happy ending.
Well, when everything's pointing towards it and all of a sudden it's like, swat!
Yeah.
Switch!
So, like,
don't just squawk.
I'm fairly certain that they will end up together.
Yeah.
But if they don't, I'm going to be mad. And I might just throw the book
I'm
across
going
the
to
room.
be annoyed. Because the whole thing is trending towards them ending up together. Like, she's liking him more. If there's a sudden switch at the end, I'm going to be annoyed because you've wasted my time.
Well, I think, like, so he's the one who broke it off with her. I think she still loves him.
Yeah.
And I think that he's the wild card in this situation.
Yeah.
So...
But I think he still loves her too. Which begs the question, why do we have to go through how many chapters of this?
But I think that there's more stuff coming with some of the other characters, the secondary characters.
I have a feeling everything's going to blow up in the second half.
Yeah.
Because there's been so much sweeping under the rug. The rug is now on top of Everest.
Yeah. I think there's something wrong with Cleo. Like sickness or something. I'm not sure. I feel like there's something going on there. And, yeah. I don't know. I mean, the other thing that, like, I find interesting about this book is, like, these three girls met their first year of college. And they have been friends, best friends, ever since. And, like, lived together for years and years, like, till they were done their schooling, basically. Like, for as long as they could. And, like, I still talk to my friends from college, but not like this, you know? And I just... always fascinates me that people who have these long-term, very close-knit friends that are like family. I don't know. It's just like, does that happen often, or is that just a book thing, or?
I don't know. I think it all kind of depends on the situation.
Yeah, but like
it's and timing. Like if you have a friend group where everybody gets married, everybody gets in a relationship, everybody has kids kind of simultaneously, I think there's a higher statistical probability that you'll stay together because you're going through the same life experiences.
Yeah.
If you've got some that are married and kids out of high school, other ones where it's like 30 and career, I think there's less possibility. And area too, like it took me a bit to figure out where the heck all these people were. Because she was talking at one point about how she moved away from all her friends to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And then Wynn is in Montana. And now they're all in Maine. And I'm like, where's everybody else?
Yeah.
Like,
I think
there's a fair amount of location hopping in this. And I'm going, where is everybody?
I think Samantha and Cleo live close-ish.
I think they're like upstate New York or something.
Yeah, because she talked about going to Cleo's farm for a weekend. So it sounded like, although she's got a lot of money too, so to jet off somewhere for a weekend is not unimaginable for somebody like her. But I just like, it seems unbelievable in this book because it seems like relatively little conflict among this friend group for the entire time that they've known each other.
Well, that's the thing. They've definitely glossed over it. Like, it's a book about friends being friends, not a book about how all the time they weren't friends. Mm-hmm. It's a happy place. They only pick the happy things.
Yeah. Definitely that. But yeah, I'm hoping for at least some conflict or like, not conflict.
I'm hoping for a murder.
No, you're not going to get a murder out of this book.
Ray, the pilot, could die.
Okay. If he dies, though, it'll probably be from his own bad flying.
Probably.
As opposed to murder. I'm fairly certain, like 99.9% sure, that there will not be a murder in this book. I'm sorry to disappoint you.
There was a Ferris wheel. Somebody could have jumped.
I'm not saying that it's impossible for...
I know.
I'm just saying
the possibility was there.
It's probably not going to happen.
Probably not.
Yeah, if I don't get my happy ending, though, I'm going to be mad.
Can we just get a robbery?
What about a cancer patient?
No.
No? Okay, no.
It's just a lot of will they, won't they?
It is a lot of that.
And when you know that they will, it's like, come on. Seriously?
I'm not enjoying it.
It's fine.
But
when I have a list of like 50 other books I'd rather read, this one's kind of like, can I just read the last chapter, Koga?
No, you can't. Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't know.
You pick books and I go, no!
I didn't necessarily pick this one. I think we
picked we just went for a summer beach read that came out soon.
Yeah, we wanted to pick a new current book, and this was the one that was coming out.
Even though it is offensively pink.
It was not my specific choice that I said, Jess, we have to read this book.
Right.
So
it was, how about this one? I went, fine.
Actually, I think you're the one who found it, to be honest. Yep, I think so.
It must have been on our request list or something.
I remember being
I have never heard of Emily Henry, really.
No?
Well, put it this way. I remember people we meet on vacation being on my request list last year.
Yeah, Emily Henry is, like, blowing up everywhere.
Yeah. Like, well, she's better than Colleen Hoover, so she deserves to blow up. Colleen Hoover deserves to blow up, or her books deserve to blow up, but in a different way.
So I was reading, like, books like this because of the generation that is using, like, TikTok and Instagram and all of those things. Mm-hmm. Book Talk. These types of books are now, like, blowing up everywhere.
Yeah.
And, like, people are reading way more because of those things. So I find that really interesting also. Because I've always been a reader. I don't need the internet to tell me to read.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
but apparently
I'll read anything.
Yeah.
And then tear it to shreds, apparently. Like, if there's a book there, I'll read it. It's hardwired into me. So,
yeah.
The latest trends, the most current authors, like, I didn't read Hunger Games when it came out, when it was a big thing. All of my friends told me I had to read Twilight, and I went, no.
You would not like Twilight, I don't think.
I am fine with vampire books. I find some vampire books quite interesting. Mm-hmm. However, Twilight, they bloody sparkle. Like,
of all the things about Twilight, that's the thing that bugs you the most.
Oh, no. That's the tip of the very sparkly iceberg.
Okay.
Like,
no. I went through a Twilight phase, but now I'm like, yeah, I can see it for what it is.
Terrible. I don't know. Like, there's just so much better vampire books out there. Like, with more plot, more character, more...
Less vegetarianism.
That too. Less creepy wolves imprinting on newborns.
Babies. Not even borns. Yeah. I think he imprinted on her from when she was still pregnant with her.
Yeah, that's just weird. Like, straight up.
I'm not saying it's not. Yeah, we've only read half. But yesterday when I finished the first half, I sort of was like, after we record tomorrow, I think I'm just going to sit down and finish the book because
Yeah.
I need to know what happens.
See, I'm more like that with American Predator. Where I'm like, I've got to water the garden. I've got an audiobook.
Yes. That one too, though, I was like, oh, can I just keep listening? Like,
Anywho, this book is fine. I hope something happens in the next half. It's adequate. It's too pink. I need more murder.
I like the pink.
It's eye bleeding.
Eye bleeding. I went through an I hate pink phase, but then I was like...
Me too. It started at birth. I'll let you know when it ends.
But after a while, I was like, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to like pink. My youngest daughter, who is 6, her favorite color is black.
I knew I liked her for a reason.
Anyways.
Anything to say on the other half?
No, I want to read it. I want to finish the book and make sure I get my happy ending. I feel like, and somewhere I must have been in an interview I read with her. I read a couple of interviews that there are other people in this book also with secrets. So I want to know what the secrets are.
Cool.
So, and that's why I say I think that definitely Cleo is hiding something.
Yeah, Cleo or Kimmy.
Somebody.
And Parth, maybe?
Yeah.
There's been nothing with him yet.
I don't know if I totally trust him.
No, he's a lawyer.
So Samantha.
Yeah, I don't trust her either.
But also, what kind of name is Parth?
I know. Like Perth, like Australia. No, Parth.
I know.
As in the Parthenon. Oh, goodness.
So, but yeah, after the first half, if you're looking for something easy breezy to read, this could be it.
It's easy, it's breezy, it's pink.
Yep, it's pink. The pink kind of gives away what type of book it is, I feel like.
Oh, straight up.
Yeah.
Very rarely have I read a political thriller that's bright pink.
Mm-hmm. Or fantasy.
Or true crime.
Yeah, definitely.
Or anything
not.
good.
True crime books are usually red or black.
Yeah. Israel Keyes, bright pink. No. It's kind of toned down the severity of the crime. I shouldn't say toned down the severity. It would, you wouldn't take it as seriously if a Ted Bundy book was bright pink. At least not to start with, until you start reading and then go, oh, this is not the beach read I thought it was.
Yep. That would be very deceiving.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anyway.
TTFN. All right, we are back with part 2 of Happy Place by Emily Henry. So, in our pre-discussion, we've already been talking about this book. We are aware that we're not going to agree, but let's talk about it.
This book is not my happy place.
No, this is not your cup of tea. I knew that before we started it, but we also know that there are a lot of you out there who probably will be reading this book. I think we have it on our hold shelf right now, waiting to go out, and I think it's been on hold since we got it, out.
Well, Emily Henry's pretty popular right now.
Yeah,
so.
She is. So, yeah, I know. Go ahead.
Did we make any predictions? I don't remember.
I don't know if we did. I didn't write anything down, I don't think.
I was trying to remember as I was reading, going, did I predict anything for this or didn't I?
No, I didn't write anything down. I just remember saying last time that if I didn't get my happy ending, I was going to be upset. Because as you...
A little bit touch and go there for a bit.
Yes. And as I was saying to you before we started recording, that I actually cried. And I don't normally cry. And you're laughing, you're gonna mock me. It's okay. I'm ready.
Sorry, I just can't think of any point in that book where I'm like, I'm gonna cry. At all.
Because...
Not even close, other than tears of joy for it being over.
So I cried at the part at the end when Harriet was leaving. Her friends brought her to the airport and they were saying goodbye. And she and Wynne had decided to not be together. And I was just like, no, they need to be together. And she's leaving her friends and she doesn't know what she's going to do. And she's quitting her residency and all of these things. And I just felt like, maybe it was also my headspace that day when I was reading it. I don't know, but I cried. Not a lot, just a little. And I'm not usually a big crier when I read books. So for me, it kind of just got me because it just, at that point, it felt like I wasn't going to get the happy ending that I wanted. And I feel like books like this, you expect that they're going to end happily.
Especially when happy is in the title.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it was like, oh, they're really not going to get back together? They have to. Yeah.
See, my headspace at that point was, seriously, you're going to set this up for a cheesy airport run towards each other moment? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong about that. Like, yes, okay, there are some things in this book that were cheesy. But for me, like, in some ways, it reminds me of Friends, except for the fact that they didn't all live in the same city.
Yeah, they live fairly far apart.
At this point. They did live together. They all lived together for, I think, a few years at least in their young adulthood. But I was getting, like, some Friends vibes from this.
Well, I mean, Sabrina would be Monica. Mm-hmm. What's the main character's name?
Harriet?
Harriet would be Rachel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chloe would be Phoebe.
Not Chloe.
Kimmy would be Phoebe.
Kimmy would be Phoebe.
Kimmy would be Phoebe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get where you're going with that.
You know, like...
I don't know who would be Chandler.
No, I mean, not so much so the...
Not the spouses so much.
And not so much, like, the actual characters, like, that these characters specifically reminded me of specific Friends characters. It was more the relationship, like, the doing everything together, and, like, this is your core group of people who is like your family, who, like, you do more stuff within your family, and you have dysfunctional families. Like, not all of the characters on Friends, but a lot of them had kind of dysfunctional families, and so did a lot of these characters, and there was a lot of similarities in that way, and just the relationships and like the banter. You know, sometimes there was some banter that
the banter was pretty lacking.
It wasn't always Friends-worthy for sure, but like for me, that's kind of...
but I can definitely see, like, if you told me that Emily Henry binged Friends before writing this book, I can see it.
Like, it's not exact, and it's not like...
No, it's definitely not where it's like, this is a Friends remake.
Yeah,
because it definitely isn't.
No.
But...
It's not.
It does have quite a similar vibe. Mm-hmm. Like, still, you know, late 20s, early 30s, group of friends.
Yep.
Different life challenges. Fun theme song.
Trying to find their way in the world, right? Like, figuring out who they are and their relationships with each other's and...
Yeah.
Each other's. Other. I don't know. And sometimes I just like a book that I don't really have to think about too hard and that I can read, like, fairly quickly. And, like, I know this isn't going to take a lot of mental thought. I'm not going to have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out who belongs where and who is this character again. Like, it's straightforward.
Yeah.
It's easy to read, easy breezy. It's a good summer read for sure, I would say.
Oh, yeah, because it takes zero brain power at all.
Your face this whole time I'm talking and you're like...
I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you liked it.
Feel the judgment emanating off of you.
No.
In waves.
There's one thing this podcast has established. It's that we have very different tastes.
We do.
And honestly, just what was going through my mind as I was reading this is, honestly, this town needs a good psychopath. Like, make it so much more interesting.
Maybe in the sequel.
Oh, that'd be lovely. That'd be wonderful. Like, my problem is I just don't have patience for will they, won't they, will they, won't they, will they, won't they, without any other subplot.
Yeah.
Like, there's no murders, there's no art theft, there's no murdery art theft.
No.
There's no space, there's no intergalactic corporation taking over everything. Like, there's no quest to Mordor. It's just kind of... you just want to shake the book and go, just talk to each other.
Yeah, that's... before I started the second half, in my head I was like, okay, 97.8% of their problems could be solved if they would just communicate openly and honestly. That was the thing that got me like, yes, just talk, speak, say how you feel, like say how you really feel.
Yeah.
Stop saying that you're fine and that you're happy when you're not. You know?
See, this thing, I have very little patience for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Both in real life and in books. I'm like, just tell me. If you have a problem, tell me.
Yeah.
If I have a problem, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Stop beating around the bush. The bush is getting tired.
Yes. No, that part also is frustrating for me. And so, like, as much as I like this book, I realize that it's, like, cheesy and the characters are definitely flawed, as we all are. But
yeah. Who wants to read about perfect people? That's boring.
Then it would be called The Perfect Place.
It just sounds like The Good Place.
The Good Place. I love that show.
It's so forking good.
Anyway.
I will say, like, the setting of this book, I don't know. I couldn't get a handle on it. How do I explain it? Okay. If I'm reading a book and the author's describing a setting, I can picture it. Mm-hmm. I know where things are. There's a map in my head. Okay, like the coffee shops across the bookstore, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. I couldn't get it. I don't know why. The descriptions, like, one time they're talking about, oh, it's so cold and they've all got jackets on and, you know, they're out on the boat and it's freezing, and the next time they're jumping off the dock. Like, they're... I don't know. I just couldn't...
Yeah. Well, they were in, what, Maine or something?
Maine, yeah.
So...
Because at one point they were looking at t-shirts that said they were maniacs.
Yeah,
That's
right.
the only reason I know. Right. So I would buy that shirt.
I also have to say, this is an aside, I'm really sorry they didn't get the Wicked Piss Out tattoos. Because that would have been funny.
That would have been good. I can understand why they didn't, because frankly, that's kind of a not great move on Sabrina's part. Like,
yeah.
Who goes, we're all getting tattoos, when everybody's like,
yeah.
I didn't consent to this.
Yeah. If they'd all agreed, that would have been.
That part's kind of like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. But I don't really know what the climate is like in Maine. And it's summer, so you assume it would be warm, but they kept talking about how cold it was all the time. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
That's the thing. Like, at one point, they're like, it's cold, it's hot, it's cold, it's hot. Like, I'm like, pick a season. And I know, as a Manitoban, saying pick a season is really hypocritical.
Yes.
But I don't know. Just the way that she wrote the setting, to me, just didn't jive.
But saying that as a Manitoban, we don't control the weather. Emily and Henry can control the weather in this book.
You can't control the weather.
Oh, no.
I can.
Well.
For example, if I want it to rain, we'll have drought.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Could you please start wanting it to drought so we could get some rain?
I need to go wash my car or something so we get some rain, because, oh my word, do we need rain.
We washed our car yesterday, and Mike washed his truck on Saturday, so...
Yeah, but are you cursed like me?
Apparently we're not, I guess.
Yeah.
Our curse is picking the wrong line in the store. Mm. Always, every time.
That's very unfortunate.
Yep, it's a bad one. But
for the record, we're recording this in June, and we still haven't had decent rain, in a month and a half.
Yeah, it's pretty dry.
Brown lawns in June just looks weird.
It does look weird. It should be green and bright and...
Juney. Yes. Anywho.
Yes. Were you happy that they ended up together? You didn't have any feelings about them ending up together, Harriet and Wayne?
It was one of the... Quite honestly, I'm more happy that Harriet quit her surgeon job.
Yeah.
Because, honestly, every single time she talked about it or thought about it or whatever, it was all in the negative.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, I'm getting tired of you complaining about this, so just quit.
I know. But it took a long time for her to figure out that what she thought was her lifelong dream wasn't actually her lifelong dream.
Well, that's the problem with her as a character. She spends her entire life going, I'm fine. Oh, yeah, no, definitely. And just making the peace. Where I'm like, no, just cause some trouble every once in a while.
But how often in life don't people do that, though?
A lot.
A lot, right? So, as annoying as it is, it's a very common trait in humans.
Doesn't mean I don't find it annoying in real humans, too.
I know. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying
that should be the tagline for this entire podcast. Janine likes it. Jess is annoyed by it.
That is not the case for every book that we have read.
True. I liked the Lulu more, and you didn't.
That is true.
Probably because I picked the Lulu more.
But you have probably disliked more of the books that we've read than I have.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I will say, this book is not bad. Is it something I would choose to read? No, probably not, just because it's not my taste. Mm-hmm. I'm more bored by it, honestly, than anything else. There's books I actively hate. See all James Patterson episodes. But this one, I'm more just I don't see the point of it, because it's okay, you went on a trip, we all knew you were going to end up together, you ended up together.
Well, it's like watching a rom-com, which I don't think you watch a lot of those either.
No, not unless there's more calm than rom.
But this is like the
and
book...
sometimes a bomb.
The book version of a rom-com.
Yeah,
right? That's what it is. If you like rom-coms, if you like fluffy books, if you like beach read type books, this is a book for you.
Yes.
For sure. If you like some spicy scenes, also be warned, there is some of that. If that offends you, then maybe don't pick up this book.
Yeah, but it's not super spicy.
It's not super...
it's not like Colleen Hoover, oh my word, it eats my brain.
It's not Colleen Hoover spicy. But if you do have a problem with that, then...
It's not Christian fiction. Put it that way.
Absolutely not.
It's not your Debbie McComber where the most spicy thing you get is a, bit of a kiss.
They're not very chaste in this book.
No.
But you can probably figure that out based on the type of book that it is, so.
Yeah, pretty much.
But sometimes books like this, like, are still fairly clean. Like the Shopaholic books that I used to read were fairly clean books, as far as that goes.
It is a relatively clean book, all things considered. Like,
I guess.
That's nothing too crazy.
My mom would be offended by it. That's kind of my judge.
Really?
Well, she would never read a book like this. Also, it has some swearing.
Oh, yeah, I guess it does.
See,
I didn't even think of that.
when I read things through the lens of my mom's eyes, I notice a lot more than when I read them through the lens of my own eyes.
Well, swearing in a book is something I just don't pick up on usually, honestly, because a lot of the... Put it this way. I consume a fair amount of British media. Quite common.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're reading anything other than Christian fiction...
Or junior fiction.
you can expect for there to be language, for sure. So...
That being said, it's not excessive and gratuitous.
No, the language is not that bad.
It is not Colleen Hoover.
No, definitely not.
I will say, I liked... I don't...
She can't admit that she likes something about the book.
No. I was going to say, I think I liked this one more than Colleen Hoover.
Okay.
But I will say, Colleen Hoover kept me more engaged.
It was more suspenseful.
Yes. Because I'm like, what the heck's going on here? These people are all nuts.
Yeah.
But then again, Colleen Hoover had psychopaths, even though they were undiagnosed.
Yeah.
This one didn't.
No.
So, it's a better book in some ways.
These people aren't nuts, they just don't know how to communicate with each other.
Exactly. See, in that way, I sort of prefer the Colleen Hoover. Because they were nuts. That was more interesting.
And it was obvious that they were nuts.
Yeah. And like, everything was just so off the wall that you're like, this can't get any crazier. And then it does. So that was a bit more... kept you on edge. Whereas this one, I'm like, I know what's going to happen. I'm bored. Like, this book just bored me. There's no spaceships. There's no murder. There's no psychopaths. It's all just like, let's jump off the dock and have fun. I'm like, I don't care.
Don't you want to go to Lobster Fest in Maine?
Sure, but I don't want to read about it.
Okay.
And I don't like lobsters.
Do you want to
I'm more likely to take one home as a pet.
Do you want to get a Wicked Pissa tattoo?
If I was going to get a tattoo, it'd be much cooler than that.
A lobster?
No. Octopus, maybe.
Interesting.
Octopi are so bloody cool.
Yeah.
They can edit their own DNA.
Anyway.
Before we devolve into another Jess talks about animals.
The fact is, I enjoyed this book, but there's not really a lot to talk about.
There's not much in terms of plot.
It's basically your standard rom-com. There's a guy and there's a girl and there's tension. And are they going to get together or are they not going to get together?
But we all know that they're going to get together.
And then, and then you get your happy ending and...
It's like the most tension in the book was between Sabrina and Chloe.
Yeah.
And then Chloe's like, oh, by the way, I'm pregnant. And then everyone's like, oh, hugs! And...
Well...
Like, great, but you still haven't fixed a whole lot of the underlying issues.
Well, they did start. They talking. They started.
But it kind of felt like they just barely started. And then the book was over. I'm like...
Well, do you want to read about them working out their issues together?
No, but I don't want to read about them pining over their issues either. Sorry, this book is fine. It's not as bad as I'm making it sound. Like, I'm making it sound like it's just these people sitting around with wine going, you cannot believe how tough my life is. Like, you wouldn't even. It's not. Like, it's a pretty fluffy book.
They do drink a lot, though.
I just don't have patience for this kind of thing. Like, I don't really like... I want to say books about real life. Because real life sucks more than these people's lives. Because, frankly, they're pretty privileged. Oh, please. Do you have a lobster house in Maine? I don't see one.
Maybe I have a secret lobster house in Maine that you don't know about.
I would like to know about that, actually.
I fly down there on the weekends. Just for the weekend.
You are determined to kill the environment.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Anywho. But, like, it's pretty much... It's set in the current time. It's about fairly realistic people, all things considered. With fairly realistic problems. Why do I want to read about that?
Well, the 2.4 million copies of the rest of her books that have been sold would disagree.
I don't like reading about real life.
You don't like reading about the things that everybody else likes to read about?
Well, I want to read about something that isn't, or that couldn't literally be happening to somebody right now. Throw a spaceship in there and I'm there.
Too much reality.
Too much reality. Like, it reads a little bit like a reality show. Like, if you made a movie of this, it would read like a reality show.
It would be a rom-com.
Yeah, 6 people stuck in a house figuring out their issues. Isn't that just Big Brother?
I don't know. I've never watched Big Brother.
Isn't that one of the many reality shows based on the same premise? Like, it's... I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's,
No, I understand what you're saying.
It's like about reading... It's like reading about a accountant doing his taxes and having problems with his taxes.
It's not
Like, why do I want to read that?
escapism enough for you in a book.
Well, yeah, I want a story.
Yeah.
Like, I want... Like, in English class and stuff, you learn about the hero's journey and whatnot, and they face a problem, and they have to overcome, and they have a mentor, and blah, blah, blah. Like that.
They had a problem. They overcame it.
Yeah, but it's a problem that really didn't even need to exist in the first place.
It was a problem of their own making, for sure.
If you take more than 4 minutes to break up with somebody, you know.
Well, like I said, 97.8% of the problems could have been fixed by communication. If they would have communicated, they would not have broken up in the first place. They would have been together. No need for this book.
And then I live happily ever after.
Jess can go to her happy place, which is...
in a spaceship fighting aliens that are actually T-Rexes, and we're on our way to Mordor. How is that not awesome? Oh, and there's a shark involved somewhere.
T-shirt. It's short for Tyrannosaurus shirt because of the short arms.
I agree. I think that's brilliant.
I saw that online yesterday, and I was like, that's kind of funny.
That's brilliant. I like that.
I thought you'd like that.
I need a Tyrannosaurus shirt now.
Aren't you wearing a Tyrannosaurus?
Tyrannosaurus shirt?
Tyrannosaurus shirt?
Oh, the wheels are coming off now.
No. And how?
Anywho. I mean, this book is fine. If you like the fluffy rom-com stuff, you'll like it.
It's okay. Stop trying to convince yourself that this book was okay. You don't have to like it.
I know, but I feel like the negative Nancy that always comes on and goes, I hated it. Those damn kids won't get off my lawn.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I am trying. I know what I like and what I don't like, and I have... It's one of those things where I'm like, I can see the hours of my life ticking down, and some of them were spent reading this book.
Oh, no. That's
this book
bad.
seems to be in an existential tailspin.
Yikes. We don't want that. Should we wrap things up with some fun facts?
I think so, because otherwise, who knows?
So, I have a few fun facts. I kind of focused on the romance part of it because there's some interesting facts about romance books that I found. These days, a romance reading habit is not to be hidden under the mattress or whispered in a private book club. It is to be crowed proudly on social media, book talk, and Instagram in particular. So, whereas in the past, reading romance books was almost embarrassing, now it's like everybody reads romance. Oh, yeah. Like,
really?
Oh, absolutely.
I must be younger than I thought.
You are much younger.
I don't know if it's the cultural shift in the time that I've been alive, or it's just me not caring.
I don't know, but it is a cultural shift because it used to be like very,
Just reading the trashy romances
was
trashy.
You hid that stuff. That wasn't something like you read it and you passed it. Well, maybe you did pass it along to your friend, but it was like you would bring it to church and give it to your friend. That's for sure.
Oh no, that's what I did with 50 Shades of Grey. They loved it.
Your church library probably has that book, don't they?
My church library? No.
I know.
They don't even have all the Karen Kingsbury stuff because some of them are too spicy.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, romance novels generate more than $1 billion each year, while the rest of the publishing industry's sales decline. 46% of romance fans read at least one book a week. I thought those were...
I read at least one book a week.
Yeah, I mean, I do too, at least one book a week. But $1 billion in sales each year.
Thing is, though, there's a lot of self-publishing in the romance industry.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, say, your Brandon Sanderson epics, not so much. And plus, they also take a fair amount more time. Like, if you look at the amount of time it takes to write a romance versus... Yes. I mean, Brandon Sanderson's a bad example because despite his prolific output, like, there's crazy thick books. But, like, if you're looking at your average thriller, you know, mystery, something where the plot takes more than 5 seconds, it's going to take a lot longer to write that book than romance because you can knock 4 of those out in a year easy.
Right. But somebody still has to be buying them and reading them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? Like...
That's because they're also quick to read. They're quick to write. They're quick to read.
I know. But like you have proven, they're not everybody's cup of tea.
Oh, no, definitely not.
So
I would rather stick it in a cup of tea. Sorry.
No?
I don't mean to go poo-poo all your facts again.
I'm going to start making you do this part. So, amid the loneliness and disconnection and confusing sexual politics in part of the pandemic, romance, a genre that honored big feelings and crying jags and a nice soft world where people were free to be corny and earnest and direct, became a bomb. So, something that people use just as an escape, like this is fluffy, I don't have to think about it, and whatever. But once denigrated as a guilty pleasure for the desperate, horny housewife, to Gen Zers, romance wasn't embarrassing at all. In fact, they loved it. And that's a quote from an article from Vulture that I found online. So the desperate, horny housewife quote was a little bit like, okay. Anyway. And then...
I feel like there's a lot of that comes to shift in YA publishing as well.
Maybe.
Like, if you look at the YA books that you had growing up.
There wasn't really much for
Lorraine Daniels.
I read those. But I wouldn't even consider those YA.
They are...
Because I remember reading those in elementary school.
They're definitely skewing on the younger end of the side of things with a lot of it. But, like, they're all like, teenager has horrible life-threatening illness and somebody dies.
Sicklet.
Yes.
Is what that is called, apparently.
Like, that was a lot of YA.
Yeah.
And then, like, YA as a age group has only really come into being in the last little while. It used to be a lot more a case of, you know, you read Enid Blyton, and then you moved on to adult books.
I think I pretty much jumped from junior fiction to adult fiction.
So having something like YA, where there's a lot more content, especially, like, if you look at a lot of YA books, they're romantic. Either as the main premise of the book and the main plot, or as a subplot, there's romance in there. So as you have a generation of people reading YA books, rather than just junior fiction, you get a lot more of acceptance in reading straight romance when you finally hit adult. So, if that makes sense.
I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is true. YA has blown up in the last, like, 10, 15 years. Insanely.
Like, it's actually a thing now.
It's a thing, and a lot of YA books are better than adult books, if you ask me.
Oh, straight up.
Yeah.
I feel like there's just more room to play in YA books.
Yeah.
Like, so many adult books are like, well, we gotta talk about taxes and death.
Taxes
Whereas
and
YA
death.
books, they play around a lot more with different characters, different, like, sci-fi, murder, you know, they just play a lot more. It's the fun of a junior fiction combined with adult. So.
Yep. And lastly, I think this quote is from Emily Henry herself, but I am not 100% sure because I forgot to write it down. But anyways, the notion of being earnestly devoted to something is really difficult to engage with for a lot of people, especially academics or self-described intellectuals, especially in a way that resembles a young woman's dramatic and intense emotional life. Emotions make people antsy. I think it makes them uncomfortable to think about love with any seriousness. Romance is all about the willingness to fall and let yourself be caught, about learning how to be vulnerable with another person. If you read it right, it challenges a lot of ideas and structural problems, so long as people could get over what she's diagnosed as our societal problem with sincerity.
Yeah, romance is all about the willingness to fall and let yourself be caught. Yeah, nope, I'm good. See, that's the thing. I'm like, I just don't care.
And I think too, a lot of it depends with the attitude that you're reading it going into it, right?
And I tried to like it going into it.
Okay, so I will give you that.
Honestly, there just wasn't a lot of meat to the book. And that's not me. I like to be able to sink into world building. There wasn't any. The world was already built, and we got bored.
Well, there you have it.
So
Maine is boring.
Maine is a state is actually quite interesting. East Coast I find quite fascinating, especially the history of it. But that gets off on a completely different topic, and unless we want a tangent about sailing ships, we ain't going there.
We won't go there today. But yeah, there you have it. For Jess, it's a no. For me, it's a yeah. Sure.
For me, it's a not at this point in time.
Okay. I'm having a hard time imagining a point in time when this would be a book for you, but...
with that, we'll leave you, and
let us know your thoughts if you read this one.
yes, please do.
So that's what we thought of the book.
But those are just our opinions, of course. We'd like to hear yours, so leave us a comment.
Thanks for joining us for Between the Lines.
And thanks for editor Linda.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.